topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, America. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. This is the first Wednesday. Can you believe we're in September already? This is the first Wednesday in September, and that means Dr. Eldred Taylor of the Taylor Medical Group. I was just telling Dr. Taylor we got a text from a longtime listener who actually just thanked us for having Dr. Taylor. And we make sure now that he is the first Wednesday at 10 o'clock Eastern time of each month. So you'll know exactly when he's coming on. He is, I got to tell you, I have learned so much from Dr. Taylor, and his story of how he got to where he's at now is so amazing. I guess you could say he's a holistic doctor, but he has helped so many people that the doctors have basically thrown their hands up at. And he is an MD and went to some of the finest schools. Let me introduce you to Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Yeah, hello. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Taylor.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Listen, he is so dedicated. Dr. Taylor is on vacation right now, and he still made it. Isn't that amazing?
Well, I don't want to disrupt the schedule. I hope the background noise isn't too bad, but I'm actually on vacation. I'm trying to practice what I preach, trying to decrease stress and recharge your battery so you can go back and do it all over again.
Dr. Taylor, I know we do this all the time, but you've got such an interesting background and where you started and where you are now. Share that with the audience.
I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. Went to Vanderbilt undergrad, and then went to Atlanta to go to medical school. Went to Emory University Medical School. Did an OBGYN residency, practiced OBGYN. Well, I got married to my wife, who is also a physician, and started practicing OBGYN, and she was practicing psychiatry. And we got to a point where my wife started having issues that an OBGYN should be able to handle, as you get older, there's PMS and irregular cycles and things. And when I was trying to do what I was doing for my patients, I saw it didn't work. And then I had some patients come in and asking me about bioidentical or natural hormones. And in an effort to try and discourage them from doing something that I didn't know anything about, I started reading about it and found out that maybe I was doing it wrong. And so that's kind of how I got there. So then I started understanding how hormones really work, and not how they work in conjunction with birth control pills and hormones, but how they really work and how you can really balance them. And really the key discovery was understanding that you measure hormones in the saliva and not in the blood. Because when I was a resident, we never drew blood levels for hormones. I never knew why, but they don't tell you anything. And we wrote a book, Are Your Hormones Making You Sick?, trying to explain that. But anyway, when you measure hormones through saliva, it's very easy to figure out what's out of balance and get it back in balance. So that was the start of my journey into another way of practicing medicine. And then when I found out that maybe I didn't quite understand hormones, then I started to try and figure out what else I didn't understand. And I found out I didn't understand how the gut works, how the brain works, how stress works, how cortisol works. There was a lot of things that I didn't understand really how they functioned. And when you understand how they function, you can help them function better. And that's where that functional medicine tag or label kind of comes from. How can you help patients function for as long as possible and also function as well as possible during their lifetime? And hopefully they don't go into this steady decline starting at age 40 or 50 or 60. Hopefully you can maintain adequate function for for a sustained period of your life.
We're going to be, we talk a lot about weight loss, and I have learned much from you. But one of the factors of losing weight is stress. And it is so important. So we're going to talk about stress today and how stress can actually shorten your lifespan. And we're going to talk about some ways that maybe you can alleviate stress and get back. So let's start off with, what do you tell patients that you know for a fact that stress is, whether it's weight or any other problem, is probably what is their major problem? What do you tell them?
Well, Steve, there was a study done, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, and it said that 75 to 90% of all visits to primary care physicians are for stress-related complaints or disorders. Okay, so 75 to 90%, whatever issue you have has some relationship to stress. So if you're a betting man, if you walk into my office and if I say, hey, stress probably has something to do with it, 75 to 90% of the time, I'm correct.
Yeah.
So it's really, and I'm going to tell you, we do tests for cortisol and adrenal function, which measures stress. And I'm going to tell you, 75 to 90% of the time, it's abnormal. Now, I'm not saying that 75% of the time of all people in the world. I'm saying if they come into the office with a complaint, 75 to 90% of the time, that complaint has something to do with stress. And now, to be clear, I'm not saying that stress does cause some issues, but stress will make any issue worse. So whatever if you got diabetes, it's gonna make diabetes worse. If you got hypertension, it's gonna make hypertension worse. If you've got sleep issues, it's gonna make sleep issues worse. If you've got gut problems, it's gonna make gut problems worse. But also stress can initiate some of those problems also. So stress seems to be involved in multiple ways. And a lot of times when you're talking about how to alleviate or how to manage it, a lot of it is internal stress that we put on ourselves. A lot of it is that we think we got to work all the time. I'm at the point now where I know, let me tell you, every 2 months, my wife and I, we take a vacation. Okay, so that is because you have to rest. You have to give your body time to recover from all of the stress you put it through, work and kids and illnesses and worried about what's on the news and who's gonna run. Just all of these external things that you're having to deal with, and some that you don't have any control over. But the key is to try and take control over the things you can take control over. And a lot of times in America, we don't do that. We could leave work early, but we don't. We could send the kids to grandma, but we don't. So we have to learn how to monitor and to adjust some of the stresses that we have control over.
Dr. Taylor, I know you are a believer like I am, and you have a heart for people. And, people come to you usually after they've gone to 1, 2, maybe even 3 doctors. and they all say, we don't see anything. And then they come to you, Dr. Taylor. So, your position is still pretty stressful. So I'm glad that you and your wife can get away but when it comes to stress, what do you ask a patient when you sit down and doing a history and physical on them? What's the first thing you try to look for when to see if there is stress involved?
Well, it's a couple of things. We, especially with a new patient, it's at the minimum, it's a 30-minute visit, because I believe it takes about 20 minutes for me to gain a patient's trust to the point where they're going to actually tell me what's wrong. Okay, so first they have to trust you enough to tell you what the stress is, and then then I'll tell you one question that seems to always get them to talk. Tell me exactly when you notice your health or your situation started to decline. And usually they'll tell you it was right after, my son had an accident and he had to go through rehab and whatever, or it was when my parents both, passed away within an 8-month period, and they'll say, oh yeah, it was this year. So they have a certain time where they say, yeah, since then, I felt like my health has never been the same. And that is usually connected to a stress. And I'm telling you, that 75 to 90% number is pretty much spot on.
Wow. We're here in South Florida, and there's so many restaurants going under. And I know finances are on people's minds a lot. That probably has something to do with stress also, finance.
Well, I was just talking to a couple down here, and asked me what I do, and we started talking about this. But this is what I'll tell you: financial stress is what affects men the most. For women, it's a loved one being sick, whether it's their husband, their child, their parents, someone that a woman feels like they need to take care of. That seems to be the stress that women have. Men, their child can be sick, but they just go and work or they do something else. But if they have financial issues, that is the number one stress on men. Someone needing care, and maybe giving them care is overwhelming to them, and they feel guilty because they feel overwhelmed and all of these things. And that's the pattern that I see the most that seems to affect the two genders differently.
One of the things you're up against is how do people determine success and happiness, because they have different meanings to different people.
Yeah, I'm reading this book. It's called "Are You in the Gap or Are You in the Game?" And what they talk about is that this guy he runs these classes for entrepreneurs, and he said that when he has them, and these are very successful people, they have to be making at least $250,000 and come to his seminars. And he says when he asks them, do they feel successful? He said like only about 10 to 20% of the guys would say they feel like they're successful. And he's talking about how people always are looking at what they haven't achieved, and they don't really give themselves credit for what they have achieved. And so he was talking about when you're dealing with success, you should always look backwards and measure your success looking from where you came from and not where you're trying to get to. So that's a very powerful thing, because you look at even from childhood, these kids, and I see kids who are stressed out because they're always trying to get to the next school or the next AP class or the next college, and then the next this, and they never give themselves credit from finishing high school or going, and when you look at that, and then they said when you look at all your accomplishments and keep those the top of mind, it helps you to get to the next level because you see all of these things you've accomplished. But if you're always looking at what you haven't gotten yet, you're always going to be under this, consistent internal stress. So, and they looked at these people long term, and whoever had a more positive outlook on life, it showed that these things called telomeres on their DNA, they were longer, which meant that you were going to live longer. And they saw that they did this study with a group of nuns and looked at them for over 40 or 50 years and saw that if they had a positive attitude in their 20s, is that those people lived on average 10 years longer than people who had negative attitudes about where they were and where they were going and all that. So a lot of, people talk about, functional medicine and living longer and living healthier. And a lot of it is how you look at life. If you look at everything in life as being a step toward you achieving something positive, whether there's some negative things that go on along the way, you're going to live longer when you're instead of when you're always looking at things that are obstacles as overwhelming and I can't do this and I won't be happy and so all of these conflicting thoughts just accelerate the stress that we all can feel if we don't try to manage it in a more healthy way.
Dr. Taylor, have you ever seen in your practice that people who are trying to lose weight and they've done all the commercial supplements, food diets, and they don't see results? Does that cause stress?
Yeah. Hey, well, it's almost like everything. It's a chicken and egg thing. When you are overweight, that's a stress on your body.
Yes.
And a lot of times your body reacts to that stress in ways that really are detrimental to you. So it's when you're under stress, your body is only thinking short term. It's only thinking about this present situation. It's not thinking about long term. So it's using up a lot of your energy sources. So you end up being fatigued. And then the only way you can get more energy is by eating carbohydrates. And then the carbohydrates make you gain weight. And then that's more stress. And then it's this never ending cycle. So somehow you have to break that cycle. And I always tell patients, you cannot diet and exercise your way past the hormone problem. And cortisol problems are a hormone problem that will cause you to not be able to lose weight or cause you to gain weight. In women, if your estrogen and progesterone is out of balance, it's going to cause a problem. And we were talking about Ozempic or semaglutide. Even if you're on one of those weight loss drugs, if your hormones aren't properly balanced, you're not going to get as good of a result from even taking prescription medication. So so all of that is is very important. That weight, stress, hormones, all of that works together. And we wrote another book called The Stress Connection, and we wrote that book because stress is connected to everything. It's connected to your weight, to your hormones, to your brain function, to your gut function, to your cardiovascular system, to your hypertension, to your thyroid. I mean, it's connected to everything. So that's why
How about sleep
talk
apnea?
about it so much. Yeah, sleep apnea. I'm telling you, you cannot name a condition that stress, and some of it stress initiates, but stress definitely propagates it and accelerates it. So again, that's why we talk about it so much. That's why we measure it. And again, that's what a lot of doctors, including myself, before I understood this, they don't measure it, so they don't see it as an issue, so they don't address it. And when they don't address it, the problem eventually gets worse. And the crazy thing about medicine, conventional medicine, is is that the stress will make it worse. And eventually you'll get to the point where you are in a disease state. And that's when the conventional doctor says, oh, wow, now you have diabetes, now you have high blood pressure, now you have this, that. But the stress was accelerating that process. And that's why, the doctor says, come back next year, come back next year, come back next year, come back next year. Oh, wow, now your blood work is totally abnormal. Well, it was heading in that direction every year when they were telling you to come back. So what we do is try and interrupt that process earlier on, but you have to do different tests. You have to do functional tests and not disease tests. And when you do functional tests, you see the abnormal function, you can try and correct it. So you never get to the disease state that the conventional doctor is waiting for you to cross that red line in the sand, but you really don't want to cross that red line.
I am going to give your practice a major plug right now. I wanted to say this
Okay.
towards the end of the show. We've been doing Ask the Experts this is our 13th year, and we have always only allowed experts to come on geographically. And we started off with Dr. Taylor for just the Atlanta area. And we got so many compliments on his show. We just made it the Georgia area. And I love what Dr. Taylor has done, is doing. And his is one of the only, we got 2 shows that we elevated to national. His show is a national show. And we were able to do it this way because now you can Zoom all over the country. And I want people to know that it doesn't matter where you live. Dr. Taylor can do through Zoom, blood work through the mail. And I'm going to take it a step further. I am seeing so many companies, not necessarily doctors like Dr. Taylor, but companies promoting this skinny injection, and I'm on it, and it is amazing. But I'm going to tell you something. You are really taking a lot of chances by going through a company like that instead of going to a doctor like Dr. Taylor. And it doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. But I got to tell you, at least with Dr. Taylor, that you can trust him. He's been doing this for a long time. And I just want, I worry about these because we get calls all the time from companies wanting to come on our show. And they're not doctors. And you have to know a lot about medically about the patient. You can't just put somebody on these injections. And so I wanted to say this to the end, Dr. Taylor. And how do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can go to our website, which is taylormedicalgroup.net. On there, we have a lot of information. We are constantly putting articles up for you to read. So you can just go there as an educational source. You can also book a appointment there. You can book an online appointment, or online telehealth. You can do that. And then you can also call the office at 678-443-4000. 678-443-4000. But I would tell you the best place to go is the website, so you can get a feel for what we do. I also have a YouTube channel. You can go there and see some information and some lectures that we've done. So that's the best way to get in touch.
Well, Dr. Taylor, I know you're on vacation, and you have no idea how much we appreciate you coming on. You're with us the first Wednesday of each month, and I'm telling you, from one believer to another, you are God sent.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoy coming on and sharing the information, and it's been great for me, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it.
Listen, one of our most successful shows was when you talked about food, because you grow a lot of your own food. And my God, there's still people going to that show. And so we got to do another
Okay.
show on food maybe next month.
Okay, all right. I'll mark that down and try and come up with some topics that we can talk about.
You can tell us about your garden.
Okay, all right. I'll show you some pictures. Well, it's kind of changing over from summer to fall, so I gotta, plant some more fall and winter vegetables.
Yes.
But yeah, hey, it's a great stress reliever, and you go out and see how the wonders of nature, and it makes you feel connected. So yeah, it's a hobby that I've grown to love.
Well, again, we want to thank you. We will see you next month, Dr. Taylor. Enjoy your vacation,
All right.
and we'll see you
Okay.
soon.
All right. Thank you, sir.
That's Dr. Eldred Taylor. He is just, listen, if you want to lose weight, maybe you're going through an ED problem, maybe you have a problem and doctors are telling you it's all in your head. I'm telling you, you need to contact Dr. Eldred Taylor. We'll be right back with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.